Want me to help you?
No, but I want you to tell me.
I'm going to, when you bring it up. You get to that point of the agenda and I'll take it over.
Doug Howard, that guy who has
He's
the-
chairman.
I didn't realize
Well, that's
he
right.
was
You're
on
away
the
at the same time he's away, aren't you? You're never here when I'm the chairman.
No.
We'll send you a video. Thank you very much, Steve. You're on the agenda first.
Did you ever
Forever.
watch Evan Costello? Guess which one?
It's a much friendlier nature in the wintertime.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome meeting number 474, the Lake George Park Commission. I guess, Erica, you're taking notes today, and we do have a quorum. Thank you. Roll call minutes of the previous meeting.
As much as this bothers me, I would like my name deleted as the presiding officer for item 1 and item 2 in those minutes and amended to reflect your name, Mr. Chairman.
Your honesty overwhelms me.
Me too.
With the previous mentioned correction to the minutes, does anybody else have any further corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Fiscal actions report. We've all had a copy of it. You've all supposedly read it. Any additions, corrections? Move to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Don't hear any. Carried. Project review actions report. Joe?
Resolution 2018-17, whereas the Commission has received and reviewed the Project Review Actions Report prepared by the staff and dated May 8, 2018. The Project Review Committee recommends acceptance of the Project Review Actions Report. Now therefore be resolved that the Commission directs the Project Review Action Report be incorporated in the minutes of the full Commission. So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the project review actions report. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. First project this morning is a tour boat application by No Fish Left Behind Charter Service at Silver Bay. I object to the name. I want them to leave at least one for me. I don't think that's a good.
This is an application for a tour boat permit as well as a marina modification at Silver Bay. The applicant, Joe Testa, No Fish Left Behind, docks at Class B Marina and visits the Silver Bay facility and picks up customers as part of their services at the marina. Unfortunately, neither Mr. Testa, goes out of state, or any representatives from Silver Bay could be here to join us today. So if you have any questions, hopefully the application satisfy that need.
Is there anyone here to speak for him? Anybody to speak against him?
I think it's.
I'm sorry?
Did you want us to review any of the application itself? I think everybody's got it and has read it, and it's pretty straightforward. It's been approved.
Straightforward.
You're going to make it
Town.
short and sweet today, huh?
Yeah. Okay, resolution 2018-18, application number 5226-11-18, SPT 5226-15-18, M1 mod. Applicant is Joe Testa in Silver Bay, YMCA. Whereas the applicant has applied for permits to operate a tour boat and modify a Class A marina to offer the subject tour boat services, and whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, and the Commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 6 NY CRR 617.5, and as lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment, and whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NY CRR 645-5.3, public notice has been published and distributed as required, and whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the activity and facility comply with the tour boat requirements of 646 6-1.4D2 and the Class A Marina requirements of 6 NY CRR 646-1.2B. And whereas the Commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential characters of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby resolves to approve the above application, provided no substantive adverse comments are received before the close of the public comment period as proposed. So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the application by No Fish Be Left Behind at Silver Bay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Second application is a turboat application at a Class A Marina modification to authorize operation of Freedom Boat Club charter service at Beckley's Marina.
I couldn't say it any better, and Andrew Harris, right here in the audience, to represent the application on behalf of the Freedom Boat Club.
Okay, if someone here to speak for the application. Yeah, that's,
I'm Adam, the owner of Freedom Boat Club. For those of you guys who don't know us, we are a franchise business. We're a membership boat club. We own the boats, we do all the maintenance, all the service, storage, all that stuff. Safety is a big part of our process. We have an extensive training program that all of our members go through before they take a boat out. Our shore boat permit is really for a few uses above and beyond what our members do. We do events throughout the year, for instance, Big Brothers Big Sisters Day on the Water, where we do a match event. We're recapping the boat. From time to time, we'll have members that want to do something. We don't allow boating at night after dark, but we do a fireworks cruise that we'd like to offer our members with you recapping the boat. So, throughout the year, we'd like to have our boat recapped. And it's not an additional boat in our fleet, it's a current boat that we have in our fleet, so it really wouldn't increase the usage of our fleet. It just gives us an opportunity to use one of our boats for the captain from time to time.
Commissioners have a question at this point for the gentleman. Not at this point. Okay. Someone else here to speak?
My name is Lonnie Lawrence. I am the treasurer of Government Point Homeowners Association. I think what you've got there is a nice commercial entity, but you just came into it. We've been dealing with this commercial entity for decades.
Yeah.
We have become a nice upscale.
Excuse me, Lonnie.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and this is matter. You should be talking to us.
Okay.
Okay?
It sounds like a really nice commercial entity that he's got there. But what we've got is an upscale, high-end community that's built up over the last 20 years. Ray Beckley had a wonderful relationship with Tom Meath, and Tom Meath let him go in and out. What I don't want to see is an increase of people using a road. It's a private road. Hayden Point Loop is a private road. Hayden Point Loop north is our road. Hayden Point Loop south is Beckley's road. They have a road that goes in there. It's a dirt road. And what he does is he directs people to go from Beckley's Marina to our 10 people or 9 people on the road. And your people stop here and they throw garbage in our yard. They pull over their boats and their trailers. They throw their garbage anywhere they want to. And they come into, we have a little area that we park to use our lakefront, which is right next to Beckley's. And people pull in there because they don't have enough room to work on their trailers or their boats or whatever. And they pull into our area where we park to go use our docking system. And we ask them not to be there. We put up signs. I put up the signs every year. I've asked Kim Beckley to put up the signs and to police the area, but he says, no, you can do it, so we do it. But people still come in there, and then when I ask them to leave, they get very angry at us, me and anybody else who's using it. And I'm not sure this man knows about this. I don't think he probably does. But putting that commercial entity next to our little community, which is a residential community, has been very daunting for us. And the wear and tear on our road, which we maintain ourselves, it's a private road, is huge for the amount of people that come in and out of that marina. So it's just a matter of whether you think that this is the right thing to do for our community.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sir.
My name is Frank Casero, and I have a question. It's concerning, I assume that all of these meetings have the voice recording, and there always has been for all of the
Disposal restaurants.
Is that true?
Speak up a little bit. I got the first part, but then you started.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're all.
Frank Casero.
Yeah,
And I have a question,
sure.
and it's concerning the voice recording of these commission meetings, and for the entire history of the.
Right.
How long, because they are being voice recorded right now.
That's correct.
And they have been for, since, I assume, the beginning of the commission. How are those voice recordings archived?
Okay, one, that doesn't pertain to what we're discussing. It's more like something, but I'll take the time out to,
I appreciate it.
and I'll turn to our techies over here and say, what do we do with the voice recordings?
Yeah, we maintain a system of recordings, electronic files that are, there's something. Are you looking for something specific, or?
I have a reason for asking the question, yes.
Yeah. So we maintain them both. I don't know exactly when we switch from cassette tapes to like an electronic file, but we have a pretty good collection of that stuff. We always have the hard copies of the minutes.
In other words, if somebody wanted a copy of a particular meeting, we can find it for them.
Plus, due to
And
the,
the voice recordings are there.
and the video recordings there also, smile. You're on
Well,
the camera.
How long have you been doing the video recording?
That has to do with the open meetings law, I believe, right?
Video recording came in as an executive order that required video posting, but we're not actually under that law order. We're not required to maintain it. I don't think for 3 months or something. The video.
Okay, I thank you. I thought it was a general question period right now.
Right.
I guess
Right.
I interrupted
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. I'm in a good mood, so this is only my second meeting this summer, so I'm in a good mood. That's all right.
Can I respond quickly to?
Does the applicant want to respond to the last?
He just said it.
What did he say?
He just said, may I respond? Yeah.
May he respond? That's what I was just going
The
to ask
applicant
him.
wants to respond.
Yeah, but I'm supposed to ask him. Okay. It's just you guys, this is a tough crowd.
No, I do understand
Yeah.
the concerns of the homeowners. It does sound like a lot of that issue comes from the boat launch ramp and not necessarily the Freedom Boat Club, so it's somewhat of a separate issue than the tour boat permit that we're looking for today. But in terms of the issues pursued, the parking lot down below, we are happy to take it upon ourselves to police that. If that's something you've been having trouble with, I'd be happy to share my cell phone and our dock phone with any of the homeowners, and if there's ever any trouble, we will address it. I can certainly say that our members are not people that are littering. They're, at our location very often and have a private ownership of the boats and their membership and treat it like a club. The people that do use the public launch ramp is somewhat of a separate issue than what we're here for today, but I'm happy to take a little more responsibility for what is going on that road and help you, connect and address this.
I have a question both for staff and you at the same time, and it's basically, from what I understand, part of the complaint of your neighbors is one that either trailers or vehicles or whatever are being parked on somebody else's property. So my question to you is, one, and it's to staff also, do you have adequate parking for what you need to operate your marina on your own property?
Yes, yep, no problem with this here.
And as far as I know, staff have any comment
Yeah,
on
we
that?
went there. I,
It's, so the current permit requests that there are 49 parking spaces, and as presented, this wouldn't necessarily increase demand for parking since it's the same customers and not adding those or services, so we didn't identify an issue.
Okay, and then my second question, and I wish you'd stay there for this, is for council. If there's a problem with parking on somebody else's property at a marina operation, is that, while it's going to influence our decision on what we do with a marina, is that a civil matter or a park commission matter as far as?
That would be not a park commission matter, because it's not on the marina operations. It's somebody taking it upon themselves to go off of the permitted marina, go onto someone else's private property. They could call the police on it. They could call code enforcement in the town. But as far as the applicant before you, the application before you, that's not a park commission concern.
I knew the answer, but I wanted to get, I never ask a question of a lawyer that you don't know the answer to, but that's okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Just
I'd like
another
to,
line. Yeah.
first, I'd like to clear up the entities. Your Freedom Boat Club,
Correct, yes.
are you also operating Beckley's Marina?
We are leasing it.
So as far as Ken Beckley, he's the landlord, he's not there. If I bring my boat there to launch, that's your operation.
It is,
If I were paying $1 to launch, you're getting $1.
Correct.
Okay. So Beckley's Marina and Freedom Boat are interlocked right now. So whatever she's talking about, you do have the responsibility for it. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Matt, can you
could I say
possibly put a gate across this, since it's a private road that they own, the homeowners association, and it sounds like some of the marina participants are using their private road to exit. Is it possible?
I would have to check, because I'm not the landowner. I don't know what is within my rights as a leaseholder to do, so I can't answer that right now, but I will look into that.
Well, at the very least, you could put up a sign that says, this is not an exit, it's a private property, and, please do not exit this way.
Actually, it would be your responsibility as a marina operator to make sure that your clients or members are operating in a proper manner. I mean, I don't want to put it on the burden, and I know that the neighbors are going to object to this, but unfortunately, or fortunately, it is a civil matter. So it's not something that we can interfere in directly as to whether or not people are parking or driving on somebody else's property. But as a marina operator, I would assume that it's your responsibility to get as responsible a client as you can. I don't think you disagree with me. No.
Can I make a little statement here? When we visited the site, you were there, on our way out. I was in the back seat and I wasn't paying much attention, but we inadvertently went on the wrong road. And that was the last thing that, the person driving would have done. So it was very easy to leave your place and to get to 9N by going through the road that we should not have. And I think a sign or some kind of a direction to tell your clients to go back out the main road, the public road and not the private road, and is really something that should be done. Because people aren't going to do it on purpose, but because like I said, we certainly did not, but it was easier to go that way.
And I have a question about the boat that you're using. Is this your boat that you plan on using? Does it belong to, it doesn't belong to the marina or well? It belongs to the Freedom Boat Club. Is it used for other purposes?
It is. It's a boat that's in our fleet currently.
Yeah. Okay, if it's used for this operation, do you plan on replacing it with another boat to do the other stuff or not? No, you plan on using it for both operations. Is that time available on it? Okay. Any more questions of the applicant? You want to say anything else? Okay. Lonnie, you raised your hand earlier.
Primarily, what we're concerned about is the increased usage of our road. It already gets used tremendously. The people go fast. We've got little kids, grandchildren that are on the road. My letter really speaks volumes of what we've been dealing with for the last 20 years here.
Well, my question is, and this is actually for you, the road, it belongs to the homeowners association.
Correct. It's maintained by us.
So any usage of it is, as far as I can see, if not illegal, it's certainly improper. Whether or not it's an increased usage or not, I mean, you're not, they're not supposed to be using it. According to you, I don't want to get.
For a long time. I wonder, can you use
Right.
that?
Right.
Continue to use it because it's been used, because Ray Beckley, long before Ken came into his life, was using it.
Yeah.
And it goes way, way back with a really good friendship with he and his neighbor, allowing him to let him go through it.
But like his counsel pointed out, we don't have the authority to tell somebody not to operate in it. You do. You do.
We'll probably have to get an attorney.
Unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, if that can.
Does the Beckley property have a right-of-way?
I don't know, I don't think so. It's just been an agreement they had between two parties that own properties next door to each other. It happens all the time on Lake George. And,
Could you simply put a barrier up?
yeah, I guess we could. Ken would be very upset with us. He directs people to go through us. He has for years. And anytime I talk to him about it, he gets upset with me. So he opened up this situation and gave me a platform to come here to talk to you guys about it. Okay.
Want to say something? Yeah,
I
which I hate to ask you to get over there, but since people want recordings of this, you make sure you get in front of the microphone.
understand that I'm a neighbor of Ronnie. And one more thing I would like to add is that we have this lot at the lake and the parking. So now, when people go back, they park and using our lot for parking. We can't even park sometimes. In addition, one of the dock, which is a residential area currently in our homeowner association, now is being leased. So we not only, we have the problem with the road, but now we have a problem with basically our dock. Way back a couple of years ago, I was almost asked to leave my own dock. That was the only reason I bought that property, to have a small piece of dock. So it was impossible. So anyhow, we have a problem with traffic and commercial use as opposed to the homeowner association strictly residential.
Mr. Chairman, wouldn't it make a little bit of sense? You mentioned dealing with Ken Beckley, who I'm understanding from my previous question has ceded his direct daily control of the marina to his tenant, Mr. O'Hara. If you folks got in the same 4-foot square piece of property and started talking about this, I understand, and I've known Mr. Beckley for years, but if he's getting upset when you talk to him about it, ask the guy that's in control today, not the guy that's in. So you leave here today, and the next sunny day, which hopefully is tomorrow, you walk the property and you say to him, this is yours, this is ours, this is where we don't want you. I'll bet you this problem goes away. What about you? So now we just deal with the change of the vote. We haven't voted.
Question to staff, how long does this marina permit still have to run? Bill, offhand.
So the current permit expires in January 2022.
But that's in the name of Beckley Marina, right? Now, do I have to amend my Beckley Marina permit if I lease the entire marina operation out to a third party? Can he operate under my marina permit? Which is usually, I think the only real difference in my thought is the use of the launch. The boats that are parked there, I think, are Freedom Boat Club boats, but I'm operating a launch.
I'd have to look at the regulations, as to whether or not the permit can be formally transferred to the Freedom Boat Club.
Well, the regulations allow it to be put in the name of the leasing. They don't require it.
Well, the applicant is the Freedom Boat Club and Beckley's Marina, so it's both.
Yeah, I think it's important at that point is clarified because if, and I'm not saying they're going to, but if the neighbors want to take legal action, you can't say, well, whoever's running this, you got to say specifically who you want to take legal action against. And I think our records should reflect who's legally responsible for this, whether it's the Freedom Boat Club or Mr. Bagley. And that's something that anybody who has a complaint against the marina would want to know. So myself, I would appreciate a little research on this so we get a clarification as to exactly who's legally responsible for the operation of the marina.
Well, I think part of that would also be what this lease says.
I'm sorry?
Part of that would be what his lease says.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we may need cooperation from the applicant as to how much you're legally responsible for as Freedom Boat Club operation. If nothing else, not just this case, and I'm not trying to be a lawyer because I'm not a lawyer, but if something happens there and there's a lawsuit, somebody gets hurt, who do you sue? They're going to sue everybody in sight unless we know who's particularly responsible for that marina operation. And it might behoove you to know how much you're really responsible for as the operation of the boat club. I see some lawyers nodding their heads. Do they agree with me? Anyway, any further discussion on the part of the commission? I think we've made it clear that probably we're going to be looking at your operation a little more just to make sure that it is operated properly. And you do realize that even though the marina permit doesn't expire to then, and I'm not saying that this is risen to that level, but if there comes a reason in which we feel that the marina isn't operated in accordance with its permit, we can either revise or revoke the permit at that time. We don't have to wait to the end. So get on it.
So, okay, resolution 2018-19, application number 5220-26-18 SPT and 5220-32-18 M1 mod. Applicants are Freedom Boat Club and Beckley's Marina. Whereas the applicants have applied for permit to operate a tour boat and modify a Class A marina to offer the subject tour boat service. Whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. And the Commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, 6 NYCRR 617.5. As lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment. And whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed as required. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the activity and facility comply with the tour boat requirements of 646-1.4 D2 and the Class A marina requirements of 6 NYCRR 646-1.2 B. And whereas the Commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore, we resolve that the Lake George Park Commission hereby resolves to approve the above applications, provided no substantive adverse comments are received before the close of the public comment period, as proposed. So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion of the application? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved for the operation of such, but you've also been, I hope that between the two of you, you can work things out a little better as better neighbors based on this conversation.
Should we suggest to Lonnie that she let you know or let us know how she's making out with your conversation? Great.
Thank you.
I'm sure she will. The next application is for marina modification by Tiki Tours. You want to say anything first, Joe?
This is an application for a boat permit for 4 vessels, 3 of the Tiki style vessels and 1 traditional style vessel. At Lake George Beach Club, so it's also a marina modification to increase the charter at that facility. You'll remember last year, this group was authorized for the operation of 2 vessels on a temporary basis for the 2017 season. So they're here asking for that to be removed and to allow operation of the 4 vessels. And Mr. Tracy is here to represent.
Tracy?
Good morning. Greg Teresi. I did bring my manager this year, Dylan Pasco. Dylan, introduction.
Thanks for having me. My name is Dylan Pasco. Last year I worked as the assistant manager for Greg with Tiki Tours, and I also ran more trips than any of our captains that we had on the water last year. So I got to see a great deal of how the business operated and everything. I came to Greg, having spent 4 summers off of Cape Cod as a commercial guide fisherman. So then I went to Alaska and got to spend a couple seasons up there, fortunately, as a guide fisherman as well, running drift boats on the river and offshore charter boats. Some family reasons and everything else. Obviously, Lake George is a beautiful area. Found myself back here with a new opportunity. It's something that I went into it a little skeptical. You look at the boats, I'm sure you've all seen them. It's kind of just, it takes a minute, but then you get on it. And, I had my first couple of trips last year right after we were approved, and the reception that we had from customers, kids, families, business meetings, people just who knew that they shouldn't draft boat, whether it was a funny sure, like, yeah, they told us we had to watch a video, but still doesn't feel 100% comfortable, bringing their family on board. We found a diverse group of, clients throughout the whole summer where 2 boats often wasn't quite enough. And, having run roughly 2,000 passengers, I think a little over 300 trips last year with just 3 complaints that we were, we kind of weren't necessarily brought to our attention, but we requested a little more explanation of. I kind of feel that, with this summer coming up, it would be beneficial for us, to maybe have an extra boat, possibly a tiki boat as well, and then something where we can just show, our clients a little bit more of the lake, whether it be more of a wooden style boat or a pontoon boat. We often had a lot of people get off, our tiki boat, their 1-hour trip, 2-hour trip, and once they get around Tea Island, a lot of people in the village, I kind of found out, don't understand how big the lake is. So you get them around Tea Island, which is about as far north as we can go on the tiki boat, and they say, okay, well, maybe tomorrow you can take us to see a little more of the lake. And, unfortunately, we couldn't offer that to them, but I would say 9 times out of 10, they generally book with us again, at least 1 more trip for their stay. I said, hopefully, maybe next year, because it was kind of brought his attention when I was in Alaska, and I don't know if anybody's done a rafting trip. You get out on an island or you get out on a little creek or, on the side of the river and you have a peanut butter and jelly, and people think that they're eating prime rib and, lobster, but it's really just kind of the experience of getting out of the boat. So kind of with that other boat, getting further up the lake, we'd like to maybe offer, shore lunches to people, we'll provide ice and everything, so maybe we'll provide charcoal, and ice and things like that. If people want to go do a 3-hour trip, have an hour lunch on one of the state islands, that's another permit we'll have to get, but kind of things we're working on, as we had a short season, but what appears to be a pretty busy season. We're asking again for, possibly 2 more.
So, just to clarify, last year, the approvals that we had requested was for 2 tiki-style boats to operate out of the Lake George Beach Club. This year, as many of you know, we do have a third, what I'll call octagon, slow-moving boat that's similar design characteristics as the tiki boat. It's a cedar-shaped roof. It's got birch bark, so it's not a tiki theme. So the application before the commission today would be to allow us to operate that third boat at the Lake George Beach Club. Like Mr. Parker pointed out last time, we more than likely will keep that at my residence in Dark Bay. Although if the demand is there, we do have the room to keep it full-time at the Beach Club. And ideally, if the demand is there, Commissioner Cruz would like to keep it there full-time. And then with respect to the fourth boat, I did get a call from Nick Lamondo at Halls. He does have a 26-foot lineman that's right in line with what I've been looking for. Just now the problem is that I don't have a place to put it. So Nick's supposed to get back to me as to whether he's got a slip. And I'm hopeful that that will come to fruition, because I do think, like Dylan had indicated, there is that demand, at least what we saw from our customers, as to wanting to see a little bit more of the lake. It'd be a similar operation to what Love is on the Lake is doing, a similar operation to what I know Buddy Ford Jr.'s got a gorgeous, I think it's a 30-something foot hacker. Just trying to get people on a pleasure cruise, give them an experience that they might not otherwise be able to get, because they're not boaters, they're not comfortable boating on a lake of this size. That's in part what we found a lot of our customers came to us with. Dylan was telling me a story this morning about how he had a guy who booked a trip last summer and pointed to the rentals and said, geez, we were on one of those last year. But the son said that. His dad said, yeah, I ended up paying $3,000 in rental damage because he ended up damaging the boat. And he was thankful that this year they had somebody who knew the lake, knew how to drive a boat, but wanted to get his kids on the water. Was really his goal. And we saw a lot of that this summer. People just want a different way to get on the water. So that's the goal for this year. Should the Park Commission approve it?
Commissioners?
I'm unclear as to, I haven't visited the docks that you're talking about this year yet. How long are those docks? I mean, in other words, you're talking now of keeping potentially three tikis there, and the one potential 26-foot boat. Is there space at that dock for those 4 vehicles?
In the event I'm able to, so let me just start with the 3 octagon style boats. I did submit an updated map that I got from Matt Steves with respect to the spacing on putting those 3 boats on the north end of the Beach Club docks. The dock itself, I believe, is, I'm going off of memory, 65 feet long, and the boats themselves are 16 and a half feet in any given direction. So, and last week we did have all 3 boats stacked in that direction. I probably should have taken a picture of it, but we do have the ability to fit all 3 boats there. The boats only have a 18-inch draft, so that allows us to get right in close to shore, whereas other boats wouldn't have that opportunity necessarily. With respect to the pontoon boat, or hopefully a lineman, if I can find a slip where I can keep it. At that point, if I'm able to organize all that, I would go to the town, request a $200 permit to operate out of their docks, and come back to the commission with that paperwork and approval from the town village to operate out of the village docks. Again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off. Like I said, the last time I was here, I didn't even have a boat. Now I've got a boat, I just don't have a slip. But obviously, I have to make sure that the necessary approvals are in to utilize the village docks if I am able to pull that off.
Last year, you were utilizing the village docks to pick up your tiki customers.
Yes.
That was the original plan, and I believe we were approved to use the village docks, and we did get a village permit to be able to utilize their docks. We ended up really not utilizing them, just because the customers, when they were looking for the boats, saw them parked at the beach club, and they'd show up at the beach club. So we ended up just utilizing the beach club docks, which is why this year, the pitch for the commission is to allow us to use the village docks, because we didn't really utilize them last year.
There were probably a couple weekends we wouldn't have been able to use them. I mean, car show, for example, I think every guy's stacked there would have been. So a couple weekends, but yeah, the beach hooked up, kind of fell into our lap and worked out really well too, because it gives our, clients an aiming point too. We say, hey, can you find the little umbrellas or, the Shepherd's Park Pier and things like that. And it gives them also a spot to kind of wait there out on the pier, and it's a smooth transition. They can see the boats dock, so they don't kind of crowd the dock. We're getting our clients on and off the coolers and wherever they can kind of hang out up on the pier and watch. And then obviously as soon as they see the boats next to the boat, we can then direct them around and come on if they're not in the beach club. Often they let us know. We have a booth guy there who kind of handles the foot traffic around, because you can imagine the attention they draw in the village. But yeah,
Mr. Tracy, if you add up all the passengers on all these boats, would you mind summarizing for me where you're going to park all these people? Say, I don't know, what do you use for maximum passenger load on your Tiki? 8 or 10?
Maximum passenger on the Tiki 6.
6, okay, so that's 18 people, and on your Lyman?
And on the Lyman, the max is 9.
Okay, so you got 5 people. Say they're coming as couples, so you got a dozen cars to park. Would you mind telling me where you park in a dozen cars?
Well, it would be street parking. It would be the lots available in the village. That it obviously is something that we discussed with the village, being there's an upland component in dealing with parking. It did go before the village planning board last week. That issue obviously did come up with respect to not only parking but also the use of their sidewalk as an egress onto the dock.
I'm sure you realize it's our responsibility when we issue a marina permit to ensure that there's adequate parking available. Therefore, we need assurance from you that you have it. So you're saying you're in conversation, but you don't have.
I believe there's a letter in the file from the village that indicates the various parking lots that came from the village mayor. So I don't know that we heard any complaints about the parking last year. I haven't heard any complaints or concerns from the village with respect to parking. Generally, our customers are staying at the local hotels, so they're already parking somewhere, but obviously you get a large group of out-of-towners. But they would be relegated to the various pay lots that are available, the street parking that's available, the municipal lots that are available, and that would be the only availability that we have.
I took it upon myself last year quite a bit. I'd go in early, yes, up the close and nice and everything, and I'd actually go through our reservation list. If I wasn't going to walk up, if I could see somebody, from Albany, they have to put in their number and everything. And I'd actually call in the morning, just to let them know, because we're so new and we have so many people. I mean, I had somebody yelling at me, what do you mean you can swim? So I'd just call them and I'd say, do you guys have any questions regarding parking, anything like that? And last year, if I didn't call them, generally they would call our office, our window, and I had just a little note for our window person to let them know that there's various points around the village, obviously, where you can park, any metered slip, which I feel like that's generally where if my parents were coming to visit or anybody, I'd say, unfortunately, the village is a metered slip. If you don't mind walking, you can find the back streets, but it was something that I brought up, quite often last year, because it was kind of shocking how many people would just have to come from Albany for the day. They'd say, we're just coming for lunch, we're coming for dinner. If you have any suggestions on parking, and I would just direct them to, Portland Center or the back streets or, slips if they were coming to see the fireworks, I guess.
Yeah, unlike a normal marina permit, you don't have designated parking spots, so it's up to us to make a determination of whether we feel whether or not the parking is adequate. And as an adjunct to that, I would ask staff, does anybody have any any record of any kind of complaints at all about people parking. It's, no, we just had a marina permit where people were complaining about parking. Have you guys had any complaints from last summer's operation about parking?
We've not received any complaints regarding the parking associated with this operation.
And as far as the agreement that Mr. Teresi referred to with the village, is that in the file?
It is. Yeah, we had requested, as we do with every marina, to demonstrate adequate parking or adequate off-site parking. If that's the case. In this instance, the village replied on behalf of the applicant, identifying all the public parking spaces that were available, parking lots available within a quarter mile of the site, which is our standard for adequate also. So it seemed, on the true planning board, that the overall we are comfortable with the availability of public parking.
Don't we have a precedent there with, I mean, there's other boat rental issues right on the boardwalk, or whatever we call that.
Yeah.
So those rental boats compound, I mean, Lake George Village parking has been an issue forever, and it'll be an issue when we're all gone.
And it's an issue we examine every time we approve a marina. So that's all I'm doing.
Since you do take appointments, would you have any idea if the people that are coming to go out on the boat are coming just to go out on your boat, or are they in Lake George for, like you said, lunch, and then they decide, they're going to also do that, or are they visiting Lake George anyway? In other words, are they already there using parking spaces, or are they coming directly just to go out on the boat?
That's just probably a 50-50 thing. I mean, we get a lot of calls, from people at the hotels because they see us drive by. So honestly, maybe more like a 70-30. We get, honestly, quite a few people because our boat builder started in Albany, that's where this project started. So they'd see it down there, and they would call, we're just coming, for the day, but then, we also had a group, a family like 25 that's been staying in some hotel, on the X streets, and, they walked down quite a bit. As the summer went on, quite a bit, the more, I guess, for people that had hotels, just seeing us drive by and everything. There was definitely the occasional, we just walk by, can't walk by this without getting on it. They'd ask us, it's okay, it was just an day trip, we'll run back, we got to put money in our meter.
So the response that I got, the feedback that I got over the winter from a lot of the hotel motel owners was the customers that went on it had a positive experience, and from the owner's perspective, they were encouraged because their clientele are constantly coming to them saying, well, what can we do, what's available, what's out there. And that's something we're focusing on this year. My fiance is actually joining the family business and is in charge of reaching out to the various hotel owners and making sure that they have the necessary information provided we get from people. So that there's another thing for a family to do, there's another thing for couples to do. But certainly we did have an experience where we had people coming up from all over Saratoga. Right now we do plan to have a boat on the northern end of Saratoga Lake this year. It was on the southern end last year. We just struck a deal with the casino in Schenectady. We're going to be keeping one of our boats at their home as well. So I don't know if the day trippers will go there instead of here. I'm hoping that they go both.
So, am I correct that your business model is to basically, provide outreach to all the businesses on Lake George, saying, "Hey, we have options for your customers for something to do," and it's going to be less, people just coming up just to ride the boat. That was perhaps a novelty of having them built there, and that's the wear off.
Yeah, the walk up. Hopefully the goal is to get it to the point where we're having some sort of a symbiotic relationship with the other businesses. We've offered discounts to their customers. We're reaching out to the mini golf places. We're reaching out to the adventure places. Just because that's really, I think, our client base, people that want to get out and do as many different things as they can, experience the Adirondacks, experience the mountains, experience the water. So that's something that we're hoping to kind of grow that end of the business this year and get some
water is so clear. And they just have these, like, euphoric moments, and they're only like, I don't know, half a mile away from the village where they're staying in a hotel. Take them out around T Island, and not only do they jump in, and like, oh my God, this is so clear water, but they like, see the rest of the lake. It's convenient too, because it prevents them from having to drive around the village. We're actually at the boat. It's very easy, in its shape to kind of nose up to these end docks, and how shallow it is, and the load craft that we cleared, for picking people up and dropping them right at their hotel was just, every time we did that, back people off the docks and just point the sign, and then take a picture of the sign, and then get back to the window booth and trip the book. So back to Marine Village, I went. Got some lights in there.
We've had some letters of support that indicate that since there's no swimming off the tiki boats, but yet we've had complaints where people were swimming off the tiki boats. What is your position on that?
The plan, pending commission approval, would be to allow swimming off the boats. Last year, my opinion, as the legal mind of the operation was, don't allow swimming off the boats. When you take a group out on a 90-degree day with the warm breeze coming over the bow, it's difficult, from what I've been told by my captains and partners, to say no. So we do provide the Type 1 PFDs that are required by the state. We do also provide inflatable life jackets that are customary you see down in the Caribbean or Key West, with water excursion type vessels. And the plan this year is to reconfigure, at some point, and get inspected by the state our railings so that there's one entrance point being on the bow of the boat only. That way the customer goes in the water in the front, the captain's able to see them in the front, and there's one entry and exit point.
Well, we've had complaints potentially that they're relieving themselves from their not using the facilities on board. Plus, the other problem that I see is that on a busy day at $1 Million Beach, there's close to 100 boats that are launched, and that is a heavy traffic going north. And not all of them have been sort of certified to drive the boat, even though they own it. So my concern is you're in a heavy traffic area, allowing people to swim around the boat could be dangerous.
So let me answer one question at a time. With respect to the allegation that somebody was urinating in the water, obviously, as most of you know, I live on the lake and I draw my drinking water from the lake. So I take as much pride as you do as wanting to make sure that we're maintaining the quality of our lake. Our captains are instructed, and it's part of their regular dialogue before the charter goes out, to explain to the customers, hey, look, we're going to go out for an hour, we're going to go out for 90 minutes. There's bathrooms at the beach club, there's public restrooms there. Utilize them. We also provide the porta potty, which some of you saw last year when we took the ride. It's not the most ideal place to use the restroom, but we do provide a way for people to utilize the restrooms. Is it conceivable that the complaint was true and that somebody went in the water and swimming in the water and went to the bathroom in the water? Yes, I suppose that's 100% possible and could have happened. It's not something that we obviously encourage. We do everything within our power as business owners, as stewards of the lake, trying to make sure that people understand why this lake is as clear as it is, why it's drinking water. So we really do make an effort to prohibit that. I don't know that necessarily somebody who's standing at shore looking at a boat that's 100 yards away with somebody who's underwater can make a determination as to whether they're actually using the facilities to cool off and just hanging off the ladder, or if they're actually going to the bathroom. But obviously, and I don't know that our captains can even make that judgment standing right next to them, but obviously it's certainly a concern of ours. It's certainly something that we we know that in order for our business to succeed, this lake needs to be pristine and maintain, its A1 or AA rating as a water quality. So, we do the best that we can under those circumstances and try to provide as many accommodations for our customers. With respect to the traffic, I'll let Bill answer that.
Yeah, traffic and swimming is definitely a big thing, a big concern for myself, especially a year like this, it's gonna be cold water, you never know, you get people who've never jumped in this lake. You just kind of always gotta be on your guard, but it was definitely a big discretion thing for us, it was something we all spoke with, the captains, we're all CPR, first aid certified. Like Greg said, we have all the life jackets necessary on the boat, we have our throw rings and everything with ropes, we have swim noodles that we would let people use. And then back to the whole discretion factor of it all, is there were a couple times where I just had to look at somebody and I said, listen, you're not going to be able to swim for that on this boat. Whether you just notice they get on the drink or you're on the boat, it's a little, maybe it's an afternoon trip and they've been in the village for a little while, you can just instantly get that feel. Or somebody, not having been around, and chartering folks for 6 years now, I get a really good feel for people. And it's just, one of those things where, obviously we go to the island. We don't go over to the boat launch or anything. If we're going to swim, we let people know, we take them up to a no-wake zone where we know that there won't be boats, because we do have an overwhelming amount of, people that just want to come up and see what the heat point is, exactly. So we never let anybody swim outside of the no-wake zone last year, and that would, definitely not happen. That's like our biggest thing. I don't believe we had any complaints, from folks around the Tea Island area. It wasn't often that we even really anchor up and, hang out there for an hour or so. It's kind of like it's calm enough in there, and generally you can stay within the breeze. Some days, if the breeze is coming from the opposite direction, you can just kind of cross the lake over to where Paul's Fathers and the Weowaka, a little south of Paul's Fathers, just north of the Weowaka, a nice calm little bay. And it's really not like, people were hanging out, because our trips were so quick. I'd honestly say that our longest swimming period was maybe 10 minutes, last year. We started people hanging out, floating around, and then they were out of the water and just kind of back.
You're saying that the swimming is confined to either 5-mile zone areas or a small cove within shore?
Yeah, absolutely. Our boat can be seen from miles away, but I don't trust anybody, honestly, like on this lake, and there's so much liability with our customers in the water. We've been chose a bright colored noodle, so when they have it out, everybody swims with it, there's like some I'm in college somewhere, they jump in and you can see their, fine swimmers. But having the, the raised deck above everything, we have, you can see everybody always at all times, and it's always confined to a no-wake zone. Always.
So
For our own safety as well.
So you wouldn't mind if us put a condition in that your swimming is located within the 5-mile zone or within?
No, that would.
Okay.
Actually,
Mr. Tracy, I hate to belabor this point because I'll have to call a recess for somebody around here, but to get back to public urination, this isn't for a definitive answer, but how many times did you actually have to clean or empty the porta potty?
Yeah, every day. One person used it. It wasn't something that we wanted to, let's say, we kind of gave our guys a little incentive because they're college guys who, while they're returning from their first year of college, last year they were going to college. So for our captains, we do accept tips on the boat, like tips training. So, it's kind of a little incentive for the window guys to earn a couple extra bucks for college if they want.
I was going to say, if they weren't used at all.
No, they were used. Yeah, they were used.
That would be definitive.
Yeah, and I could tell instantly. The first time, it was like somebody who was on the lake had got, could I use your restroom quick? And then I was like, oh, this person must live on the lake or come on. And then then you get the tourist, oh, hey, I just want back to the boat. And I say, do you want the trip to be over now? Do you want to just go back? Is that what you're asking? Never. If I ever saw anybody even attempt it, it was to neutral, kibosh. That's how this boat gets taken away from us. That's how you can't do this. So it was never an issue on any of my boats, I can honestly say. But yeah, it was pretty, quite often we had a shower curtain that we could put around it. And just, convenience people, there's a long area with some boat.
Greg got another completely different subject. It's the going from 2 to 3. And I know we revisited this last month. but would you like to give another explanation as to why you decided last year, without asking us, you could operate a third boat? Because all you had to do was call up and we would have told you yes or no.
Chairman, I'd love to answer the question. Before our approval last year, I had met with Eileen Ames, who was counsel at the time. I sat down with her at her office and went through the application. And one of my questions to her at the time was, my understanding was that there were some PV operators on the lake who were operating out of their home and were allowed by the Park Commission to operate the charter boats. The Park Commission was aware of this. I referenced the particular boat and operator. And I had asked her at that time, I said, so my understanding is if I have a PV boat at my home, can I operate that as a charter? And her answer was yes. And I know that.
Well, that's not the same as getting a permit, Greg, and you know that.
Well,
I mean, anybody who has a PV boat at their home can operate a charter if they get a permit.
But last year that was different, Chairman. And as soon as I got the call, hey, you got 3 boats down here, that's not permitted, we immediately pulled it off. I immediately engaged in conversation. My point to Ms. Haynes last year was I should be able to operate just as any other boat owner is on the lake. When she got the call about the 3 boats, and I called her, and I had that same comment to her, she said, well, not exactly. She goes, you run an operation, you were permitted to, the Park Commission's taking a different stance on it. I obviously beg to differ based on the regulations, but I wasn't looking for a fight. You know, I was happy to be in operation. I obviously wasn't looking to offend anybody or try to get anything done under the radar. And that's why I pulled those boats off that one boat off immediately. My understanding is we, in talking with Dave Wick and Lieutenant Johns, hey, if I have one boat that's out of service, can I cycle in the other boat? Yes, no problem, but you're limited to 2. Hindsight, yeah, I should have written a letter to the commission. I should have documented it. I shouldn't have rested on a conversation that I had with the commission attorney. It was a mistake, no doubt about it, and I promise you I won't make that same mistake again.
Yeah, you remember last year I said that yours was one of the best presentations I ever had seen. However, I also added the caveat that you're going to be looked at because of the public nature of your business, just as hard or harder than any other one. So it behooved you to do the best job you could do. And I'm not accusing you of anything, but it looks on the surface like you just said, well, let's try this and see what happens. What I said is I'm not accusing you of that, but I'm telling you what it looks like as a general perception.
And I read the letter that complained from, I believe it was Sean Quirk, Lake George Fulworth, who said that without permission, we ran 3 boats regularly every weekend throughout the summer. That is entirely false.
Right.
I'm the one who called Greg that morning. I said, Greg, I got a lady who's in from New Hampshire. She's got 24 people. I think we're going to need to get our 3rd boat in service today. Is that possible? He says the PV inspection checklist on there. So the PV inspection checklist on there. Do we have letters? We have letters. He gave me the explanation with the, the conversation you have with the attorney. He said, we should be good to go. So we ran all day. We was just a wild Saturday. It was the first time ever where we needed to run 3 boats. It was the first weekend. It was the only day. It wasn't every weekend. It was one day. Ran all day, and then in the evening is when I was approached by the Park Commission.
I think the reason for the confusion is, and I know the commission takes objection to my logic on this, but I knew that there were other boats on the lake that were operating out of their home. They weren't being regulated by the Park Commission, which is why you folks instituted the requirement that all charter boats are required to get a tour boat. But that rule hadn't come into effect yet. So I was trying to play by what the regulations were. I was trying to play by what my understanding was based on the conversation that I had with Ms. Haynes. I realized after talking to her and talking to Dave Wick, there was a different interpretation. I wasn't looking for a fight, which is why I immediately said, stop operation, take the boat back to Dark Bay.
I called him instantly and I drove the boat right up that lane.
100% right. That business was under the microscope, and will continue to be under the microscope. And I would have it no other way. You know, my comment in the very beginning, I think you remember, was if this business is a headache for the lake, if it's a headache for the commission, it's a headache for law enforcement, it's a headache for the village or the town, I'd like to know. Because I live here, I'm invested in the community, trying to start a business here, trying to make a name for myself, raise a family here. I don't want the albatross of the lake, but I do think that there is value that's provided by a business like this. Some people don't like the look of the boats. I get that, but I don't like the look of some of the other boats on the lake. And everybody has their personal preferences, but you know, the way I look at the concerns that you folks have, the concerns that the village has, or even just random residents coming up to me is, you know, it's all good feedback. It's all things that I can take back to the guys that I'm working with on business and say, these are the concerns, and these are legitimate concerns that need to be addressed. Because in order for a business like this to succeed, you've got to make it better and better. Otherwise, somebody else, I think, will come in and do what we're doing, do it better than us, and try to set up business.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to plead mea culpa to this. I'm just making sure that you acknowledge at least that you are under a microscope, and it behooves you to pay attention, or if you've got a question about something, it doesn't take a written application, just a simple phone call to staff and say, hey, this is what we're, you know, people might like, this is what we would like to do, or this is what we're doing. Is there something wrong with it? Even if you have an understanding of your contract or your permit, it doesn't hurt to ask.
I know in talking to Dave about it, I know he had a conversation, and I don't want to speak for him, but my understanding is that Ms. Haynes, and obviously she's not here, but did indicate, yes, that is what I told him. So I wasn't shooting blind, I wasn't shooting from the hip, but I would agree with you, I should have followed it up with a letter, at the very least to document it so that the commission itself can be aware of it, and obviously the staff wasn't aware of it. And that was a mistake on my part, that I didn't try to deal with it as quickly as I could. I just pulled the vote off and leaving that to next year's application.
Do the commissioners have any further
Can
questions?
I ask Joe, John, do you agree that it was only one occurrence that we had this?
When I spoke to Dylan, he said on good Saturdays, they do.
So it's more than one occurrence that it happened? Okay.
More or less, I think we were hoping to use the third. That was the first day we had the third boat in operation. And you just came up, so I had a boat full of people. And I was just kind of, after we had gone over the inspection letters, you know, we were still, you know, it might have been in August, it was starting beginning of July, you know, it felt quick into the season. But yeah, that was the first day, and I remember, because I was so confused, I was sharing, you know, because I thought we could use 3 boats, or at least I thought we could.
Look, there's no mistake about it. It's not his fault. It's my fault. I'm the owner of the business. When there was a demand for an extra boat, and he called me, I gave him the green light to do it.
Yeah, since it was that first day, I quickly remember saying, I know this is probably the first time, but if we get busy weekends, we're probably, you know, we'll have 3 boats running. It had been so unfamiliar, and I could tell our commission, kind of like the whole day as we're running the 3 boats, we're kind of like following and looking, a little more binoculars. And then in the evening, they finally came up and I said, this is like our first busy weekend where we've had to run 3 boats. I go, it's not going to be a weekly thing, but maybe a busy Saturday or Sunday that we'll have to bring this boat into use. And she was here now, the new one officer said 2 boats only, 2 boats. And that's where I called him. And
I will say that that boat was on the water and was in use, not as a PB though. Like I said, it's really my business partner, Larry Davis's personal boat. He had a custom built for himself. But we had permission and agreement with him that we could use the boat when he's not. So it is conceivable that 2 tiki boats would have been on the water. The third Adirondack style boat would have been on the water, but not PB. But the PBs were covered, which my understanding in talking to the state with the regulators boat as a non-PV, so we can cover up or take off the PV stickers. I don't remember another instance other than that one particular day. I mean, I know we were excited about the fact that the business was doing well enough to put a third boat into service. Obviously disappointed when we got that call, but like I said, there's no doubt that's 100% on me. I know better than that. You're right. But I did try to take the necessary steps to immediately pull it out of service. And then I think I was back before the Park Commission that following meeting, addressing that very issue and trying to make the pitch to put it into service, but the consensus was, let's see how you do this year. And hopefully, I'd like to think that we did well. I think we can do better. I think we've got a solid, at least core of captains that are coming back. We are looking to hire a few more, but that obviously makes an impact on how the business is run and the face of the business. I think Dylan did an excellent job. A couple of other captains did a great job. It's a balance between providing a great experience, but doing it in a safe and responsible manner, which was really the goal from the beginning. I think one of my pitches to the Park Commission was there's a lot of people that got on this lake and operate vessels that aren't responsible with drinking, with operating the boat. Part of the goal is to find people a way to get on the lake with a captain that knows the lake, who's sober, who's able to show them a good time and do it in a responsible way. I think we've got roughly 2,000 customers that went through it last year. The bulk of them will vouch for that. Hopefully we'll be back this summer. We did have a few people that we prefer not come back this year, customers, but I think that's par for the course with any type of business in the vacation town.
Any further questions to commissioners at this time? No more. Right now. Right now. Okay. Anyone else here want to speak on this? Who shall I pick on first? Mr. Nisha, you have never started off one of these conversations.
Last year, after a test drive, and with some enthusiasm, we entered into a probationary agreement for 2 tiki boats. And with various complaints and the apparent arbitrary decision to add a 3rd boat was a violation of that agreement. So I don't believe that the probationary agreement has been fulfilled. I think I'm amenable to a redo, a do-over of that probationary agreement with the addition of the 26-foot boat. And I think I stay away from the swimming aspect because we have other PV operators that pull tubes or water skis or whatever, and it has impact on what they do. So I'm amenable to a do-over of a 2-year, of the 1-year probationary agreement for 2 tiki boats, plus the addition of the 26-foot tour boat.
Kathy.
Jim just about has said the way, everything that I feel about this too. As far as the swimming goes, I was going to ask Greg how long they stayed in the water and if that was running a lot, if that was included in the original 1.5 hours or whatever, but 10 minutes, I can see that. I have no issue about the swimming because I know how much enjoyment your passengers would get out of the swimming, from swimming, but I really have a concern about the liability, and I hope you are a good judge of character as far as anybody being overly intoxicated, or, I mean, let's face it, many of them use that as a fun time to drink a little more than they should, and you've got an incredible responsibility out there. far as that goes, but I'd hate to take the people that really feel, you know, you know, your passengers that really enjoy it. I'd hate to take that away from them. But I feel that we stay with the probationary for another year, 2 tiki boats and add the lineman. It's not, or the 26-foot or whatever it is.
One branch of our family has been on the lake for over 100 years, and they live right down by the Paulus Fathers. And this branch of our family thinks that the only boats allowed on Lake George should be sailboats, rowboats, and canoes. So you can imagine how they feel when they look out at cocktail hour and see a tiki hut going by their house. And it goes by there daily with their operation because it's by the Paulus Fathers. And you can imagine the phone calls I get in regards to how could we have allowed this to happen. That said, I would concur with Jim's analysis of 2 boats and the probationary period extended.
I'm not even against the 3 boats anymore. And I'm trying to hold them to very similar standards that we hold other rental boat operations. I can take a ride on his tiki boat and have a credible person operating the boat and do an enjoyable experience, and I can go 100 feet to the south and rent a boat and take all of my family or buddies out, and our civil activities are basically unlimited. We can throw our cooler up on there and drink as much beer as we want without getting caught, as long as we have a volunteer operator, and we can go swimming anytime we want. We want to pull out from halfway between Halls and Lake George Village and stupid enough to go swimming there. We can do that. We're not limited to it. That is the lake. Those are the non-rules of the lake. So while I'm working through my frustration of last year's issues, it may or may not be here to stay long-term as a business, and that's not any of our business. I like the probation part, and it's like last year we decided to limit them to a single green line on the chart, and that's kind of impossible to do with Lake George, weather, water, etc. So I would support their application as it stands, with only sensible regulations, limitations.
Mark?
I believe that all permits are probationary. They have terms, they have conditions, they have means to suspension, revocation. So when you have violations of permit conditions or the permit itself, you take care of those issues through that vehicle, and be done with it. Looking at a modification that would increase, add 2 boats. The reason that we're looking at this is because of the tour boat application and its tour boats on Lake George and its implications to congestion and resources of the lake. So the question is this addition of 1 tiki boat, or you can call it the Adirondack boat. Thank you. And the lineman, perhaps, would that add to congestion? Would that add to parking, as I was parking issues as I was diving into there? I don't believe it will. The operation, and is there a possibility for that 3rd tiki to be still operated out of Dark Bay, out of where it is now, instead of adding it to the marina facility under a variance? Could that be something that we could look into as an option? I agree with what Ken said. You know, you can't go out on Lake George and not swim. I find it hard. And if there are substantial violations that are noted for any permit, they should be addressed at that time with the permit that's valid at that time. So that's about all I have to say.
My thoughts are that there was a probationary period, as Jim mentioned, and there was a violation, and I believe that we should, I support 2 tiki boats on the lake and an additional tour boat or pontoon boat or a layman boat, but no more than 2. And it'd be a probation period of 1 year and see what happens. See if we can come back with a clean record.
Dee.
I totally agree with Joe and Jim. I've always felt that these boats were, how would I say this, accident waiting to happen on Lake George, in the sense that they only go 7 or 8 miles an hour, under 10 according to their permit. I'm thinking if they were the farthest north of the circuit that they do make in the South Basin, and the storm came up quickly over the winter, they had one deckhand, quote unquote, on shore. How is he going to get out and help that guy? The other 2 boats, 3 may be out, okay? And there's no way that deckhand's going to be helpful. And they're the boat that came out, the only option is going to be to put that thing on somebody else's dock somewhere, with the snow faster. I'm in favor of 2 boats for the next coming year. I'm obviously concerned that we had complaints of what was going on this year. Not only the fact of the 3rd boat, but the boat that actually goes to the docks 50 feet away. I remember one of the concerns that was mentioned to us, and with noise and partying and that kind of stuff. You know, that's not what we're looking to have.
Okay. And as chairman, as it was mentioned earlier, there's no way you can touch the swimming operation unless you put 2,000 or 3,000 patrol boats. You got people swimming off islands, you got people swimming off docks, you got people swimming off the beach.
True.
Yeah, some of them are probably taking the easy way out, but there's no way you're going to particularly police one particular operation. So I think any mention, as long as they're ultimately, as I said before, they're ultimately responsible if anything happens and somebody gets hurt in a swimming operation. It's their responsibility. So far, they've operated safely. I agree with Dean. There's a possibility, but there's a possibility of every boat on the lake getting into a situation where something tragic is going to happen. We have no indication that they're operating this thing in an unsafe operation. I do have, you mentioned every application or every permit is on a probationary, and that's true. However, we have in the past, and I think it's a good idea, if you mentioned it's a one-year one, then we look at it 1 year from now in a much, in other words, we go over this all over again next year. And I think based on the first operation, I'm not saying all the allegations that have been brought up are correct. There's no way, actually, there's no way of proving half of them or disproving them. So but I do think that 1 year is adequate. I'm still upset that, and I understand all of your argument previously, but I'm upset that we went from 2 to 3 without asking. You also haven't, to my mind, demonstrated a great need for the 3rd boat. And my suggestion to you in that area would be all applications, all permits are modifiable. If you find during the year you're getting more requests for tours than you can handle with just 2 boats, then there's nothing that precludes you from coming in here and saying, look, guys, I can make this a more viable business. I can operate a 3rd boat. Here's proof that I need the capacity. Here's proof that I can handle it with docking, with parking, and everything else. and then you're providing, but right now you're talking about something that may or may not, sure, it's a business plan, it's a hope. As far as you're thinking, you might want to have 20 boats on the lake. But just like somebody comes in and asks for a 50 parking increase in their marina because they think they can get the business, you have to demonstrate a need for it when you're doing something new. And you realize you're under a microscope. So I am in favor of staying with the two. I don't see any problem with going to alignment. I don't see that adding. We've got turboats all over the lake and single operations. Just going from, if we went from 2 to 4, we're doubling the capacity in a new operation that's still proving its worth. And I'm not saying you haven't done that. I'll still go back to my original. You seem to be serious and running a good operation, and there's nothing that's happened that demonstrates otherwise. But other than the fact that you didn't ask us to increase by 50% last year, that still bothers me. And that's just, it's in some cases it's not easier to just go ahead and ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. In our case, I'd rather you ask for permission. So I'm agreeable with the application, with the exception that we modify it from 3 boats to 2 boats, and we approve 2 boats plus the lineman boat, which is a total of 3 instead of 4. That's what I have to say, and I think the proper thing, you haven't put a motion on the floor.
Resolution?
And as chairman of the project review, you can read a motion. At this point, you can say, well, I think these guys are going to go with this.
Right.
Yeah, but you have to modify what you have to show the actual boat count.
And just get a quick remark.
Sure you can. This is unusual, because normally you don't get to argue with the jury after the case is heard and they're deliberating.
I'm not looking to argue.
Okay.
I want you to just hopefully you understand I was trying to do the right thing. And your statement a minute ago was you should have checked with staff. I thought I was doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that. I heard that.
I think the other thing that the board has to consider is there's not, at the time, there wasn't a rule in place, and there wasn't a regulation in place that I can, I'm a lawyer by trade. If I want to figure out whether I can do something or not, I'll genuinely go to the rules and look at them. And I've looked at your rules, and at this point in the game, I know them in my sleep. But in doing both of those things, I thought I was operating within the confines of the rules. I mean, I get it, that the perception is that I was in violation. When I talked to Eileen about it, she said it was a matter of interpretation. And I think she'd probably still say that today, and I'd like to think that counsel today would say the same thing. That there, at the time, there wasn't a clear indication as to which way the rules would go. And I think counsel today would advise the board that when there's an interpretation within the rules, it goes in favor of the applicant. And that's been tried, tested, and true through Article 78 proceedings over and over again in New York State. I wasn't looking to push that envelope, which is why I backed off of trying to go that route and said, you know what, let me just try to run the business on 2 and prove that there was a good operation. As far as the need is concerned, I wouldn't be standing here if I didn't think that that boat would be put into service. Without question, throughout the rest of the summer, got phone calls where we could have booked that boat. And I was getting calls from my captains and my partners saying, geez, we could be making money on that boat, let's just put it into service. No. We could have tried to do that. We did. It was a mistake on my part. I mean, it hurts a little bit to think that I'm getting punished for that because I did try to go through the correct procedures, what I thought. You know, there's not a guideline or direction at the time from the commission as to how to do that. I do think that there is value in the 3rd vote. I understand why Mr. Nishaw is upset by it. I understand why the rest of the commissioners. But you guys deal with the park commission stuff on a day in and day out basis. I don't. We're which is why I went to Eileen to try to get an answer. And I thought I was going the correct route. Obviously, I'm learning how the commission operates as I go to a certain degree. Like I said, now that I know that, that'll never happen again. So I just ask you to consider that. I do appreciate the fact that you're willing to give me another shot. 1 year probationary, I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm okay with earning my money. So, thank you.
Greg, just as a minute, my opinion about you upsetting us, that's strictly an opinion. I'm basing my decision on just as a standalone application, going from 2 boats to 4 boats and so forth, and what we've discussed here. I'm not basing my feelings on this, nor I don't think anyone else here, on whether or not you went to 3 boats without telling us. Obviously, yeah, that's human nature, it upset them. But that's not what we're basing our decision on, is the fact that you did that. Okay, we're going to grant, at least that's what, from what I can understand, we're willing to grant you a continuation, which shows that, okay, we didn't throw you in jail because,
No, and like I said, I'm grateful for another opportunity.
Right, right.
So I'd like to make the business.
And I want you to understand that my decision, at least, is based on looking at the proposal as it exists, not so much on that, not on that particular action. I'm just saying it bothered me, but I'm objective enough, I hope, to look at your application as a whole. Okay. Okay.
Resolution 2018-20. Applicant number is 522-6-18 SPT, 5222-14-18 M1 Mod. Applicants are Tiki Tours LLC and Lake George Beach Club. Whereas the applicant has applied for permits to operate 4 tour boats and modify a Class A marina to the subject tour boat service. Whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which was received in the record. And whereas the Commission has made a determination that the project is an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act to 6 NY-CRR 617.5 as lead agency for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, has made a determination that the project will have no significant impact on the environment. And whereas the action is considered to be a major project pursuant to 6 NY-CRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed as required. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated that the activity and facility comply with the tour boat requirements of 646-1.4 D2, Class A marina requirements of 6 NY-CRR 646-1.2B, and whereas the Commission finds the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, and welfare of the public, the environment or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential characters of the area in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be resolved that the Lake George Park Commission hereby resolves to approve the above applications with the following conditions. Number 1, this will be a 1-year probationary period similar to last year, and there will be no more than 2 tiki boats operational at any given moment in time, and that they can allow a layman tour boat or pontoon boat also. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I think I heard a second. Any further discussion on the motion as read? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carried. And Greg, I want to advise, just reiterate, I know you're going to do it anyway, but if you fill up, keep a record of, at any time, you're certainly, staff, I'm sure, will bring it to us. And if you have a justified reason for the 3rd boat, as I said, your permit is modifiable, and we can change it. But you have to not only justify a need for it, but answer all the other requirements operated. Okay?
Can I just make one other comment, or just one other question?
Question? Okay. A comment? I'm not sure, but a question, yes.
With respect to the complaints that we got, I reached out to Lieutenant Johns in September. I think it was on Molly's suggestion that I sat down with her, and she said, you might want to check with Lieutenant Johns. When the complaints come in, is it possible, and I get it, you guys are understaffed, but is it possible for us to get some notification? Because one of my frustrations with the complaints is, I would have loved to have found out what captain was driving and been able to say to him, explain to me why we're getting a complaint like this. It just helps. I mean, I know, but if that is possible,
I don't think there's any problem with that, right? No.
just makes it easier, or a little bit easier for me to hold my captains accountable for it.
Communication.
Appreciate the consideration.
Modification of an existing wharf by Wasserback Town of Lake George.
Yeah, right this way. We've had that complex in the family for over 100 years.
This is an application by William and Jane Wasserback, modify an existing work to add an open side and sun deck, / boat cover, and add staircase that is future variance to place the sun deck in the setback area and increase the dock over the limit of 40 feet in the width. We have representation.
Holy
We have a visual presentation. If you want to take a 5-minute break, I can set that up for you here. Is that acceptable, Mr. Chairman?
If you got something to set up, it's going to take 5 minutes?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We can project on
After all the talking about public urination, maybe people want a break.
Stand up.
Just so we all remember, this is the Wasserbach residence dock modification.
Yes, thank you. Mike Finney, Principal Finney Design Group, with me today is Jason Brown, who's Vice President and Creative Director. We're here today to talk about Bill and Jane Wasserback's boat dock modification. And we were involved in the design and construction of the house about 5 years ago. At that time, we made some surface improvements to the existing dock, replaced any rotted material that was there. And we're going to show you pictures of the existing proposed condition with that. One point of clarification, you received some feedback about the width of the dock, the proposed new stairs, we hope will be the approved covered deck, sticking beyond the 40 feet width, and we're going to show you today, we've taken that communication, come up with some options we think that would mediate that, and keep it within the 40 feet, so we won't need that combination. So, Jason's going to be running through just some of the technical aspects of the existing proposal, and then we'll open it up for general discussion. Thank you. So we'll try to keep a presentation brief, given that you have most of the application materials in front of you. Today, we're just going to look quickly at the existing conditions, what's there, and then we're going to look at two options. We've looked at both what we're calling the alternative dock, which would be removing the dock entirely from its existing location, bringing it into a compliant location, and adding the covered deck on top of it. And then we're also going to look at our proposed or preferred option that requires the variance, wherein we leave the dock where it is, and then we add a covering over the top of it. So here we see a satellite image of the location. The subject property is here. As you can see, it's in a cove. We'll make mention that the neighbor on the northerly side of the DC property, the property line extends into this rock outcropping, and they have an outdoor entertaining area on top of that shrub bush embankment. And on the other side is the public access to the waterfront
that is accessible to owners of property owners association on the other side of Lake Street. This is the property.
Where's Lake Street?
Lake Street is, as we zoom in here, is basically a continuation up and down.
No, physically, I'm not sure where you are on the lake.
Sure.
East side, just north of
East side,
East side, just north of Lake.
Yeah, just north of the village.
Oh, okay, all right. East side.
Yes. Yep. This subject property looks basically right at the southern basis of the village.
I'll show you the south.